All right, I bet you're good to go.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Welcome, everybody. Year's gone fast. Here we are in Q4. Trying to fight the weather already. So, Mike, you want to get us kicked off, and then we'll go to Kevin or Randy for the safety moment. Jacobs.
Yep. Morning, everyone. Mike Hughes here. Just a reminder that what you're attending is a status meeting. You'll hear updates about the progress of different streams of work. This is a working session in which the public is offered the opportunity, and key stakeholders are offered the opportunity to observe, but not to ask questions or participate in the meeting actively. We ask that you avoid the temptation to pull out your smartphone and text any of the people who are participating in the meeting to go around that, and that you just simply observe and take stock of the status of the work in Butte. So with that, I'll give it back to all of you and we'll get started.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Little change up, and it was suggested by Kevin yesterday at the meeting. Jacobs will do the safety meeting moment today, but we're probably going to rotate next month. I'm going to think Aspects volunteered. I'll ask additional team members of Atlantic Richfield will do the same, and if EPA or contractors or DEQ would like to do a safety moment once in a while too, we'd also do that. So next month we'll have Aspect. We'll figure out the month after that, but sometimes I just leave it. I don't change the agenda. So if you guys get caught by surprise in, say, December, you're still up. I didn't change it. Okay. All right. So maybe I'll send a note, try to, when I distribute the agenda to, well in advance. So you at least have a few days to plan for a safety moment. But today, Jacobs is up again. We've really been focusing on Jacobs and their work with all of our contractors out there because they're doing construction, but everybody has valuable insights for safety. So Kevin, Randy, you're on the hook again today, but not next month.
All right. Looking forward to that. Thanks, Josh. So I wanted to talk today to the team about 10 safety tips really for the families and families for safety during the autumn time. As the weather gets colder, we definitely want to make sure that everybody's kind of thinking about safety even during this. So the initial one we're going to talk about is really being careful with heaters inside of your. I know a lot of people probably do have space heaters that help warm up maybe an area outside of the main part of the house, and they're good to use, but they are basically a large cost of house fires and any type of burst from somebody touching them. So they actually say that one of the key things for heaters is to make sure that you leave plenty of room around that heater. Don't place it near curtains or anything near any type of fabric. Ignite if it got too hot. And the big one, and I think we've all seen it in the papers, people leave their space heaters on and they leave the house and something happens to go wrong or it gets knocked over, basically ignites something, there's nobody there. So big thing with the space heaters is just make sure you attend to them when they're in the house. And when you leave, make sure they're shut. The second tip they give us is related to your furnace. They say with the change of seasons, it's really a good time to go make sure your furnace is operational. So a lot of mechanical companies offer service options to go in and check your furnace out to make sure it's operational and to make sure it's not having issues. So I think it's not that expensive, and it's probably a good bit of insurance to make sure that your furnace is operational. You don't have any particular issues during the operation of it. Third one is avoid burning leaves.
Sorry to interrupt. This is Mike, if I can. I'm getting some scratchy audio, and I think what's happening, I'm watching the boxes light up on my own screen. Many of you have your mics on. So I think that's causing interruption of the speaker. So if you would all just mute your mics, unless you're the one doing the talking, then we can hear the speaker more clearly.
Okay, thanks, Mike. So the third safety tip they offer is really trying to avoid burning leaves. Obviously, I don't know where we lived in Pennsylvania, it's not allowed. The area we lived in, all the leaves have to be raked up and disposed of. Local township usually have a location you can take them to and dispose of them, but they really don't want you burning leaves for a lot of reasons. It's been pretty dry where I live, and it's not hard to conceive that if you have a big pile of leaves burning, you get out of control quickly. Fourth tip is really keep an eye on all the candles, similar to what the heaters are. But if you're leaving the house, make sure uh, they're put out, and then really keep any of the candles away from any materials. We're in a place where the children, pets can reach them. Make sure they're out that reach. So always make sure that those are controlled, just like your heaters. That you don't just assume we'll be back in 30 minutes and won't be any problems. There certainly could be. The next one really applies more to driving. Certainly when the leaves fall and it rains, it makes the roads extremely treacherous. And if it's turning cold, you have like almost a perfect situation where it's cold, it's wet, and it's freezing conditions. So just be very careful to monitor your speed and traction while driving. And always make sure you try and slow down for the conditions on the day you're driving someplace. The sixth one is ticks, and I didn't really know this per se, but I guess ticks continue to live in piles of dead leaves and pine needles. They remain active until the temperatures drop below freezing or snow cover. So even if it's colder, you associate the ticks with warm weather. Make sure that you check your kids and your dog for ticks. And I guess once the snow drops and it gets below freezing, it's probably less of a risk. The next one was practicing trick or treat safety, making sure you're with your children and making sure you inspect the candidates they receive. Unfortunately, that's kind of the way things are. We never really saw that much, but it seems to be more of a common thing now that you have to really just be very cautious and make sure you're watching where they're at and where they're going. One of the things they ask that they hope that the costumes are bright or reflective in color and can be seen at night. And like I said, that's another big one. I think Halloween's come up in a week. The last one is really care with pumpkin carving. Basically, everybody enjoys doing that work during the fall. But just be careful who's doing the cutting. Make sure if the kids are going to try that they're really kind of watching more than performing the task. They say to make sure that the tools you use are small carving tools rather than a large kitchen knife or a large blade. So try and pick the right tool for the task at hand. And then we do have one more, and this is, I guess, really a personal choice. Talking about getting a flu shot. I particularly don't get a lot of shots for flu, but it doesn't mean it's not a good practice. I think it's just really what your personal preference is. And if you're older, it may be a wise idea to get a flu shot before the fall season. So those are the 10 safety tips for this safety meeting.
Appreciate it, Kevin. That was very good. We're still having a little bit of choppy audio with you, so I might walk through Lexington and Grove Gulch. I'll try not to volunteer you and your crews for too much work. And we'll go from there. We might need to work on the internet speed at the job trailer or something, but I'll walk through these in general from what we've talked this past week.
Okay.
Things that we may or may not get to, and I'll go into Grove Gulch. Maybe I'll just ask you to come in and contribute any additional input through each of these next two agenda items. Speaking of Lexington wetlands, non-remedy work across the street from Grove Gulch. We've been working on the restroom. It's my understanding that our subcontractor is looking to begin setting forms towards the end of the week, if not next week. We'll have to pour that concrete using the pump truck. We'll use the access road. That's just immediately to the west of the parking lot, which will allow us and our contractor to begin paving the site towards the end of the week. So kind of the fall paving activities that you're seeing around town, around your communities, we'll be doing the same over at Lexington Wetlands. As soon as it's paved, we'll get it striped. That'll be kind of a night's completion. We have a little remaining concrete work. We got some sidewalk frontage along on Greenwood Avenue. We were originally concerned about doing that work due to the potential integrity of the underlying water line. Butte Silverbow came back in and did some inspection of that water line, and it's fine. The wall strength thickness is really good, so we're concerned about installing the additional curb and gutter in the sidewalk, which is great. It'll provide, finished frontage on Greenwood Avenue, and I think it'll help the site look more complete. Looking to do some seeding across the site into this week or next. As soon as we get that seeding done, that fall seeding, then we'll begin installing the fences to prevent unwanted, not really people traffic, but unwanted vehicle traffic from, jumping a curb and going in or coming in at a point where they shouldn't be. We have installed quite a bit of the furnishings, particularly over at the outdoor classroom. The benches are in, the trash receptacles in, and then we'll finish the furnishings as we work our way out of the site. Get the concrete work done. There's still a bike rack to go in, and another trash receptacle, and another bench near the parking lot. And then lighting, I'm not certain we'll lighting this year, but we'll see if we get close for the parking lot lighting or adjacent to the parking lot around the site. And the last thing on Lexington Wetlands is the boardwalk. We believe they're going to ship it into this week, or we'll receive it on site at the end of this week, but knock on wood, hopefully that gets done, and we want to get it installed prior to ice coming over Lexington Wetlands. So that's Lexington, and again, it's a representative project of the rest of the elements that'll be installed on site. So, this fall, we're able to maybe go down and take a visit, walk through and check it out. And we'll finish our work in the spring, button things up in the spring. Moving on to Grove Gulch. For the last month, there's been a lot of focus on site backfill and general grading. We've been placing criteria B material throughout the site, then followed by the first 12 inches of criteria D. Effectively, we're 2 grade across the site with the exception of the 6 inches of topsoil. Things are going generally pretty well from that perspective, and we're fairly well buttoned up. The crew did start work on the Grove Creek Channel a few weeks ago, and they got that excavated, the waste removed, and reconstructed really quick, including placement of the Type C material on the bottom of the channel, which is a little bit larger than you'd anticipate, but for scour purposes, it was necessary to prevent down cutting, so it's looking really good. One of our goals is to get the topsoil brought in up on top of the D riparian fill, get those banks buttoned up with protective core fabric, so we have somewhere for the water to go and not erode the channel, when we get spring flows. So to enable all this work to happen, we need the helical piers to work. We did test out we tested one helical pier on Friday, and we knew that we may have challenges going through the finding clay layer and then the underlying artesian aquifer, and that proved true. So the team did a great job Friday afternoon. We're going to button up that artesian effect, that water pushing upward through effectively the hole created by the helical pier. Yesterday, we transitioned to micropiles with pressurized grout, and that worked really well. So we've got 4 of those installed, 1 battered, meaning at an angle, and 3 vertical. And we need to go back in 3 days. So on Friday, we'll go back in and test the bond strength of those, and then make sure they perform well. If they all look good, then following Monday, then we'll be really busy installing helical piers. So the diversion and bypass structure, focusing on it, and then working our way through the site. Concrete work. This is kind of a quick sequence of what we're hoping to get done. Of course, weather. Just don't know what the weather's going to do. So as soon as we get those helical piers in, we'll be installing mud mat, which is a 4 to 6 inch layer of flowable fill. It'll set up and provide us some nice base work on. We get that mud mat in, then we need to set our forms for our foundation for the locations that are live. Mild steel weir, one of our hydraulic features to control water in the bypass and diversion structures. So I don't think we're going to install that weir, the bypass diversion structure. We want to leave it unobstructed and let flow go down Grove Creek this year. And then leave the culvert that would go to the forebay closed effectively. So we don't have any water running through through the forebay and sediment basin throughout the winter or in the spring, effectively to protect it. And we'll take concrete work as we can get it. At this point, we're not going to try to go out and do, a bunch of pours and, sub-zero temperatures and have to heat everything. Really try to focus on a diversion structure, and as weather permits, we'll do additional concrete work without overcommitting ourselves and getting ourselves into trouble. And then winterization. I think this will really be a focus on our existing SWIP, our surface water pollution prevention plan, focusing on sedimentation and minimizing erosion across the site. Again, making sure any water we do get does go down the Grove Creek channel along those protected banks. Thankfully, we've got pretty flat site, very short and relatively mild slopes. We'll see what we need to do there. Make sure our silt fences are buttoned up. We need to install any or logs anywhere to prevent erosion. We'll take a look at that. Make sure all of our dewatering pipes and sumps are off site before they get frozen into place. Sumps will stay, the pumps will come out. Other than that, for dewatering, I'm not certain that there's for winterization. Really just my goal prior to winter setting in is to get that diversion bypass structure backfilled, get the concrete in and get the channel done so water has a place to go. And kind of look at the rest of the site from a erosion perspective. Questions from anybody? Anything, Kevin, that I may have missed on Lex or Grove Gulch?
No, you gave a good overview of it. Josh, the one thing we are paving that parking lot this morning, starting about 9:30.
That's great.
Yep. No, I think that was good.
So next year, it's really contingent on what we can accomplish before winter sets in for the work to be done. I imagine there will be most likely some additional concrete to do. And of course, we'll need to backfill, and we'll do, kind of a spring, early summer re-veg and plantings. I think we got an irrigation system that needs to go in over there. And of course, some electrical and controls and lighting. It'll be a little bit to do at Grove Gulch yet next year, but anticipate we'll get it all done next construction season. Moving on, some additional conversation around Grove Gulch, kind of pre-mobilization activities. I'll take this one too, Kevin, and maybe you can chime in. We're planning on doing additional demolition activities at Butte Reduction Works. This would include the slag nose that is kind of closest to Montana Street, working that back, smelter foundation, pulling that out, and then the remaining components of the furnace that we didn't demo in phase. Just a nice bit of work to maintain progress at the site as we move towards, I guess, what you'd consider implementation of the remedy versus just demolition activities. Randy and Kevin with Jacobs are working on our demolition and deconstruction plan documents based on those off phase one. We've made good progress. They hope to get those to the Atlantic Richfield team late this week, if not early next, so we can review it. And once we have that, Emma, we'll send it your way so you can kind of cross-check the demo drawings, what we're seeing in the plans to make sure everything lines up. Randy has developed the bid documents for that and the scope of work. That's in their internal tech editing group, making sure everything's, all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And once that's concluded, they'll release it for local bid. And it sounded like we might have 4 interested parties to participate on that bid. So that's good. Kevin, anything on BRW phase 2 that I may have missed?
Nope, that's a good summary of it, Josh.
Thank you. Any questions, Emma?
No, I don't think so.
And then Casey Street water line, we did get another comment back from the railroad regarding installation of casing within certain portions of our alignment to meet their requirements. It's something that we didn't account for in the design, so the design team's taking a look at it, making sure that the design we proposed back to UP meets what Superfund also expects, since they're going to own the utility of the water main. And we'll work on finalizing those plans, kind of in Q1 and getting it back in front of the railroad. And securing access, which is partially in progress today. So I don't foresee any issues being able to complete that work. At this point, we weren't able to get to it this year. But I think at this point, we've had about everybody that's out there comment on the plans and provide their 2 cents. So pending access, get that work done next year. Karen, any additions on Casey Street?
No, we covered it.
Okay. So I guess, Kevin, once we get those plans revised with the addition requested by the railroads, we'll get them back to you guys for a second look.
Okay, thanks, Josh.
Yep. All right. Moving on to design investigation work. Lake Buffalo Gulch is up, so I'll kick it over to the Water and Current team and we'll go on mute. And as soon as they're done, we'll go to Ross and Joe or Diggins East. All right, Buffalo Gulch.
Yeah, Josh, I'll take that. This is Scott Bradshaw
Thanks,
with
Scott.
Water and Kern. Just a fairly general update there. We do have the geotech report revised to a portion where we're revising that our scope of work to complete that, to complete the geotech report and to complete the civil design there, particularly around the excavation slopes for critical infrastructure. And also for controlling dewatering around the BNSF rail. Some of what we need in order to accomplish that civil design is using Stantec's groundwater model to inform the location of some sheet piles to control the dewatering around the BNSF rail in order to control consolidation of that rail. So we're still in discussions on when we'll have that model approved by the agencies and available for Water and Kern to use in order to inform the location of those sheet piles. And so we're hoping to be submitting the 95% into the agencies the end of this year to early next year, pending that groundwater model approval by the agencies. That's all I had, Josh.
Thanks, Scott. And that's going to be, they'll probably come up a couple times, Emma, the groundwater model. I don't know if you have.
On that.
Yeah, your review.
I will have to check with our team on that. I'm trying to remember when that was formally submitted to us. I was just checking my tracking document too.
Okay.
Emma, this is Brent Lusick with Stantec. That was submitted on 9/16, and it was part of the PDI-ER for the BTC hydraulic control.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Brent.
Thanks, Brent. Yeah.
Not that long ago. I was like, when was that thing?
It gave me a little heartburn there. I was like, did we really miss something there? But no, okay. Thanks, Brent. I will check in with my group on that and provide an update, but won't have an update on that today. Yes.
Thank you. Any questions for the Buffalo Gulch team?
Yeah, this is Ian.
Ian.
I think what I'm hearing is that you want approval for the Blacktail Creek PDI-ER version of the site-wide model to also be approved for Buffalo Gulch design. Is that correct?
Yeah, the groundwater model is kind of site-wide. So if there's any feedback on any component of it anywhere throughout the domain of the model, it'd be very useful to us. I mean, we need it for we're going to utilize the same model for dewatering calculations. We're going to use it for, implementation of sheet piling where necessary. It's going to inform the Blacktail Creek, remedial design. So it's kind of our all-in model.
Yep.
So,
And I get
yeah.
that part, and I understand what you're trying to do with it. Is there any issue with just the process in terms of it being part of the Blacktail Creek approval and that applying to Buffalo Gulch?
But I think it's a PDI ER. So, and we needed a place to account for it. So I think it's fine where it's at. Yeah.
All right.
And
Just want to clear that up.
It does have a separate appendices to the model that's standalone that just talks about the groundwater model framework. So it's not, I mean, while we are using it for the Blacktail Creek, it is sort of standalone as well, just from a documentation standpoint.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess I'm bringing it up because when I read the model report, it says it'll be further refined for Butte reduction works. So I kind of assumed there'd be a different version of it that would be refined for the different areas, but I understand what you guys are thinking to do with it.
Thanks, Ian. Good question.
Yeah, I guess that may be just a good clarification and something we can ask through that review too, is what is that version of that model? What is it intended to be used for? I also will say that I have not dove far enough into those documents, so it may be stated, but that would be helpful clarification.
Yeah, I agree. Do we address Butte reduction works in it? Doesn't sound like it right now.
So in the PDI-ER, I think it just relates to, well, I think that statement is just specific to BRW because we knew there was some data limitations not included within the model currently. But for, Buffalo Gulch and Diggings East and Northside Tailings, I think that we had quite a bit of data and were able to calibrate very well to those areas.
Okay. So I think it's just important for everyone else to know what the model will be used for when they're reviewing that Blacktail Creek document. And so if this is our, the time where we're being informed of that, I think that's important to understand that point's being made.
Yeah, good call, Ian. Maybe we'll circle back with Aaron and Brant when we get the reduction works done a little bit later to make sure we don't have a gap. All right, we'll cover that with BRW. Okay, good question. Good discussion. Moving on to Diggings East. Do we have Ross or Joe on?
Yeah, hey everybody, this is Ross Pioneer. Just a general update for Diggings East. Our 95% design schedule has slipped a little bit since last month, but I think we've cleared kind of the last remaining hurdles and are getting close to a 95% submittal to internal review here in the next few weeks. And we updated our submittal date to agencies on the document tracker sent out prior to the meeting. So that's about all we have going on the design side.
Thanks, Ross. Emma brought something up yesterday that we'll have to get the minds all back together and figure out where we left. Our substantive requirements of the FEMA CLOMAR analysis. I seem to remember like John Jupko, for example, was doing the no-rise evaluation of the encroachment analysis at Diggins East, and then maybe we had a little bit separate effort at Buffalo Gulch. Of course, we've gone through Grove Gulch, and we just get everybody in the same room and sit down, and all the PMs and those respective professionals that are doing those analyses to make sure we're addressing them and that we're coordinating that conversation not only with the EPA and DEQ, but also Julie Crane with Chrysler Bow as the floodplain administrator, the planning director, and inviting, FEMA or whom else ever may be there. So him and I were thinking maybe Q1 at some time when things slow down. So just so long as the design teams are accounting for those analyses as an attachment to your design report, that's fantastic.
Yeah, sounds good. We do have a floodplain and encroachment analysis that'll go with our 95%. And we've been working on the assumption to meet a no rise condition to avoid having to do the clomer prior to the design.
Great. Thanks, Ross.
Mhm.
Any questions for Ross, Diggins East related? Okay. Moving on to Northside Tailings, I'll just say that Northside Tailings has been pretty quiet related to access. We need to get access to the UP portion of the Northside parcel to finish our pre-design investigation, and we'll put that pre-design investigation data into our evaluation report to inform the design. But in general, we've pumped the brakes on Northside Tailings, have really hit pause, really focusing the design team's efforts on Buffalo Gulch and Diggins East. Of course, Lexington Wetlands and Grove Gulch have been eating up a little bit of our time, as has the BRW demo work. So I don't know, Karen, if there's anything worth speaking to on Northside Tailings. She's saying no. So this is one of our back burner projects until we get our feet under us with Buffalo Gulch, Diggins East, and of course get property access to finish our environmental investigation. Any questions related to Northside Tailings, comments? Okay, we'll move on to the BPSOU pump station. Take this one over to Karen for a brief update.
Karen Helfrich with Pioneer. So we're working on the BPSOU pump station upgrades. So the plan is to have the 30% submitted to agencies by the end of the year. We're close, kind of online with Diggins East, close to having the 30% ready for Atlantic Richfield review in the next few weeks. Overall, this plan's mainly just to show we're moving the pump station slightly so that we can install new pumps and have a truly redundant system, get rid of some confined space because currently the vaults are all subgrade. Like a design for the 30 is going to be pretty high level conceptual. We don't have a flow rate determined yet, but it'll show where the building's going to go and the approach for the design progressing towards the 60. So that one's on track for a December submittal.
Awesome. A lot of architectural, mechanical, MP&E, right? Going into this thing eventually. It's going to be pretty robust architectural.
Yep, we've been talking with LDI and LPW from the architectural side, and then HDR will also be involved as far as the EI&C components of it. So not your traditional remedy project that you would think of, a lot of pumps and pipes and
just the hydraulic component of it.
Yep, just the hydraulic component.
So the data we need to finalize that is, of course, we need the site-wide ground model kind of agreed to. Then we got the Blacktail Creek hydraulic control design input, flow input, and whatever kind of optimization of the existing SOU groundwater remedy, I think. So that'll resolve our inputs to the vault. The pumps are generally flexible enough, or you can have redundancy within those pumps to account for, changes in flow rates. But overall, I think we got a good idea what those ranges may be. The model, really informs the key input for that one. Any questions on pump station? This is really a component of groundwater remedy optimization. Okay. We'll let Karen keep going with Butte reduction works.
Yeah, so for Butte reduction works, we completed the geotech investigation. We were able to install all those 15 additional boreholes we had. And so we're currently waiting on lab results to come in. The plan is that data would be incorporated into BRW's 95% design, not the 60%. It's all related to inland use structures, bridges and foundations and things like that. So not critical for the 60%. As far as a general update goes, we did submit so our team currently is focused on finishing up the PDI-ER where we can, which will now include everything but the geotech analysis. So it's going to include the biotreatability study results, surface water sampling, and phase 3.
Do we want to wait till we get the results before or are you trying to get it in with the 60 is the deal?
For the PDI-ER?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to have that ahead of the 60.
Okay, all right.
It's got a big chunk. The last time agencies saw the PDI-ER was just after phase 2 was completed. So phase 3 included the high and low
Okay.
groundwater sampling. We're also addressing the comments we received on the groundwater model for BRW, which is separate than. So BRW has a groundwater model that Pioneers developed that is within BRW's PDI-ER. It's separate from the site-wide groundwater model that is with Blacktail Creek's PDI-ER.
Brent, you can come in here. I guess my intent is to take that and use it as input to the site-wide and then have one comprehensive model. So we can inform everything off the one model. Brent, that's consistent with our conversation, right? You're still aware of that?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct. Yep.
Okay, so Karen, we'll work with Ross and Karen to get those necessary inputs, make sure it's agreeable to what we found with Pioneer, because I don't want 2 separate models moving forward for the remedy purposes. I just want one in the end to define the whole basin. I think will be useful for everybody.
Okay.
And then I guess to remind people for Butte reduction works, why the groundwater model is important is because BRW also has a hydraulic control system. 60% at least kind of mapped out in the 60% design.
So will the site-wide groundwater model inform BRW's hydraulic control design?
I think your model is going to inform development of the site-wide to start with. And then if we need to refine it, then we will. It'll be done prior to 95%.
Okay, might want to.
Stitch them together.
Well, I know it's just there's a lot of layers with. So BRW's groundwater model we're currently using to design the hydraulic control, which is also designing Silverbow Creek realignment. So I guess my question is, and maybe we need to discuss is, do we hold BRW's design?
I think so.
It's
How we,
if we have to redesign the hydraulic controls. And
Yeah.
because it will ripple through just about everything, just to.
Okay, we'll work to resolve the models. Yeah, I think with the goal of having one site-wide groundwater model for use, because it'll really map out, our final groundwater monitoring network, inform groundwater remedy optimization, and be useful both for what's currently a discrete model at BRW and integrating that into the site-wide. So a little bit of
Karen,
hiring out to do.
Yeah, I guess Josh and Karen probably just in the next couple of weeks, maybe we can just schedule a call. I can put something on our calendars to discuss the integration and what would be needed for that.
Okay, thanks, Brent.
Yeah, can you include Ross on that, Brent?
Okay, for sure.
That's about it for BRW. I think, yeah. Okay, covered.
When we fire up phase 2 demo, Pioneer team's been managing the air monitoring activities, so we'll get all those going. Karen, we bought, 3 new stations or something like that?
We bought 6 new monitors, so 2 at each station, because
Okay.
there's PM10 and PM2 point. They're the same monitors that were used previously, same model and everything.
Yeah. Patty took them over to Grove Gulch and left us hanging, so.
Yeah, that's true. We borrowed them.
Yeah, we just returned them.
All right.
Yeah, we're on track to have those, that order's been placed and those are coming, so we should be ready to go whenever demo plans get ready. And we are working on updating that air monitoring QAP to be updated going into 2025 as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Karen. Any questions regarding beat reduction works? Need to resolve our models. We got the phase 2 demo work coming up that we talked about. Get that beginning, sometime Q4, but, mostly going through Q1. And keep moving towards 60% design. All right, moving on to groundwater remedial optimization. Kind of spoke to the site-wide model that's in the agency's hands. We're going to look to consume the BRW model with the site-wide model. Look forward to people's input overall for what you see right now. And again, we'll have another iteration, it sounds like, with view reduction works. So yeah, agencies just got that just over a month ago, but look forward to seeing the comments on that. Response to the Blacktail PDIER submittal. Grant, you want to help me out with the infiltration evaluation and leak detection? I know we've been through a few iterations of internal comments. Maybe you kick it off, and Rich, if you have additions.
Yeah, no problem, Josh. So again, this is Brent Lusick with Stantec. We've prepared a leak infiltration evaluation report. We're working on revising comments, internal comments. We'd like to get it out soon. It'll just be dependent on those discussions that we have internally. The infiltration memorandum, it is truly an evaluation, and it reverts back to the 4 main points from the CD or the freestyle requirements, which are leak detection and infiltration needs to be conducted to protect the groundwater capture system, issues with groundwater mounding, impacts to neighbors, and impacts to the integrity or capacity of the stormwater basin. And so the evaluation is really designed around those 4 main categories, and throughout the document we we detail all those evaluations and how the systems that we have in place are protective, and have the ability to monitor any kind of leak that we believe could do create an adverse condition. So I guess that's it. Like I said, we hope to have that to the agencies here in the next few weeks. But I think that's where we're at. So it should be in advance of the 95% for both Diggings East and Buffalo Gulch, which I know that's what we discussed on our last conversation.
Thanks, Brent. Any questions on the infiltration evaluation, leak detection? All right, we'll work on getting that buttoned up and getting it over to the agencies. The BPSOU pump stations are redundant. Talking point, we already covered that pretty well. I'm the agenda maker, so that I'll get that one cleaned up. Moving on to Blacktail Creek hydraulic question.
Yeah, just one thing. I forgot to mention this earlier. This is Emma Rott from EPA, and we had a call about like a month ago about groundwater remedy optimization, which I thought was a good scoping call. And I think we had talked about making another meeting so we could follow on that conversation, because I don't think it really came to a conclusion. So I just was putting that back on our radar, that I think that would be helpful for all of us to we did not really seem aligned with where all of that groundwater remedy optimization is going to be documented and implemented through the implementation of these freestyle elements versus after implementation of the freestyle elements. So,
Sure.
yeah, so I was just putting that back on the radar to get that scheduled at some point.
Yeah, let's. Brandon, when do you think that would be most useful? Maybe after we get comments on the site-wide model?
I do think that it would be nice to have those comments back on the site-wide
Okay.
groundwater model.
Okay.
So maybe Q1 again, Emma?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Brent, I'll leave that
Yep.
on your radar to, once we get those comments back, review them and get a handle on them, then we'll set a meeting hopefully for Q1.
Sounds good. I can do that. Okay, and I think you were moving on to BTC hydraulic control. We discussed the PDI ER and its submittal. So we'll just wait on comments on that. 30% design package. So we proceeded with the 30% design for Blacktail Creek hydraulic control. AR has reviewed that package. We're revising the document per AR's comments, and our hope is that we'll have that 30% design package to the EPA towards the end of this week, maybe next week, midweek. So that should be coming your way soon.
Thanks, Brent. Any additions or questions regarding Blacktail Creek hydraulic controls? All right. Moving on to Blacktail Creek riparian actions. Logan or Daryl, are you on?
Thanks, Josh. I know on the call today, at least I saw earlier, it was Andrew from HGL. Are you still on? He might not be able to talk though.
I'm here, Logan.
Oh, all right. Do you want to provide an update, or do you want me to? Since
Either one's fine with me. So we had submitted the PDI ER, and I think that's going through agency review right now. And then we are moving forward with the 30% design as well.
I don't have anything beyond that.
Okay. Emma, any questions or anybody on the phone for the DEQ team?
Nope, we're working through that review. So yeah, we will. Hopefully, I think Logan, you had put a timeline of like early November for getting that review back, and I believe we're tracking on that still. So
yeah, I did send out an email last week seeing if you wanted to get together at all, and I know how things can get buried, and I didn't want to put you on the spot in here, so it's not that big of a deal to me. Just
yeah, right. I think, and I reached out to the folks who are helping review that, and we will touch base and make sure that if there's any like big questions that we have that I would like to talk through before we submit our comment letter, I'll let you know. But I don't believe that there is any huge questions that we had at this point.
I'm really happy to hear that. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Logan. Thanks, Andrew. Moving on to Copper Mountain. I saw an email floating through that I haven't opened yet, but it was asking, did we submit the DSR? And the answer is yes, we submitted the DSR. Emily, do you have a date when we submitted that? And maybe let us know what our upcoming activities are out there.
Yeah, you bet, Josh. I believe we submitted it on, I think, right at the beginning of October. So let me get an exact date for you really quick. That would have been on October 3rd. That email came from me. Yep, no problem. And yeah, so activity at Copper Mountain recently. Unfortunately, there was a misunderstanding, and some of our equipment was pulled from Copper Mountain. It was not intentional and not by us, but we got that equipment back from the individual who pulled it. We are, really close to the time of year that we pull all of our monitoring equipment anyway, so that it doesn't become damaged. Our proposed path forward there is to put together a corrective action report and circulate that and get that over to the EPA as well, and then make a plan for getting that equipment reinstalled in the spring. It is for the flow that's coming out of that abandoned wooden tile flume. So there's some work that needs to be put in to rechannelize that flow and calibrate the transducer to the new channel cross section.
I'm just curious, is it a corrective action? Or is it just a deviation? Yeah.
If the season's over.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the short of it is we're gonna not have a full, how many data points are we going to miss? Emily, I mean, have a deviation, individual went out and pulled our equipment mistakenly thinking it was theirs. So we're gonna have a miss on some data points. I just think it's a deviation. I don't know if it's a corrective action. That sounds too terse to me. I mean, we didn't do it, but anyway.
I think just understanding
Okay.
the amount of data that was lost and like for how long from the time that they were pulled to reinstalled versus when they were planned to be pulled initially. Just providing more of that information would be helpful to understand where that really falls in.
Okay.
Where that falls into.
Maybe that just gets rolled into our discussion with our future DSR for this next batch of data. Okay. Does that make sense, Emily? Instead of a corrective action? Okay.
Yeah, that's easy. You bet. And we can just let you guys know too, Emma, informally when we pull the rest of the equipment from Copper Mountain.
Okay. Yeah, that would be helpful. Thanks.
You bet. Upcoming, we have a few field activities. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be performing the infiltration testing on the capillary break layer and the clay layer, the infiltration barrier. In the capped area. So we have 3 locations identified for that from the QAP. Getting on our blind sweeps and 811s this week. And then we're looking at the week of the 4th to conduct that testing. During that infiltration testing, we're also going to be taking the discrete soil samples from the individual layers of the cap. And run the analytical in accordance with the QAP there. We are also getting the GPR investigation for the elusive French drain on the schedule. Right now we're targeting the week of November 11th for that. So we'll keep you guys updated there when that's locked in place. And we are currently awaiting DSR comments, and Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but our kind of proposed path forward there is to see what comments we get back from the EPA on the DSR, and if there's anything there that may influence a kind of phase 2 field investigation, and incorporate those comments to a informal meeting that we've discussed previously to go over the data we've collected, how that can inform the updated CSM, and understand if there are any remaining data gaps that need to be addressed.
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of a good point of how we're kind of, being more patient to better define our future scope of work before we authorize our contractors to begin work. We used to kind of get out over our skis and do a lot of work and design at risk. So, for example, maybe using, since it's here on the screen, Blacktail Creek hydraulic control, we'll submit the 30% design, but then our team's going to stand down until we get, through the review period, get the comments back from agencies, are able to consider those comments. And then we can define, Stantec's scope of work in this example completely, have a conversation with the agency to make sure we don't have any gaps in that scope of work. So where we used to do, just keep pushing forward, it's kind of caught up to us in a few circumstances. So we're just going to wait on comments. Effectively, the comments will be utilized to inform our scope of work, get that scope of work, get our new contracts in place for our contractor, and then begin work after we have a better full view of what the next phase of the project development will entail. That was a really good summary, Emily. Thank you. And just kind of triggered a little bit different way of doing business before we release our contractors to keep moving forward. Any questions on Copper Mountain? So October 3rd, the report, the DSR was provided. Lost a little bit of field equipment, we got it back. So we'll have a deviation in the next DSR and got some infiltration testing and trying to find the wooden flume, the tile flume, some GPR, ground penetrating radar. Okay. Moving on to ongoing planning activities. Kick this over to Tim and team if you want to walk us through a few of the first ones.
2 bullets. Spot.
Yeah.
With Atlantic Richfield. Not much of an update really on any of this stuff. I'll take the first one to the tech specs and CQAP program wide. We're gonna get a draft with Diggings East, probably review that, and then you guys will see the first versions of those when you probably with the Diggings East submittal that you get first. Materials management plan, Josh, I'm gonna kick that one right back to you.
Sure. So we were able to get the materials management plan to Montana Resources, I believe, 2 weeks ago. Reached out to Mark and Jeremy with Montana Resources. We're gonna catch up with them on Thursday, just for a general first impressions kind of discussion. See how it looks for them. So we're fully aligned on the materials management plan. We need to kind of sequence or think through when does the materials management plan come out versus, a few bullets down the repository science study evaluations and recommendations reports. So yeah, we're always in this chicken and the egg, cart and the horse kind of scenario, which goes first, or we put them together. So we'll get through that materials management plan. We think it's in a good position. Working with Montana Resources and their team and see where we can get, provide another update. Probably with our next meeting. I don't anticipate it to miraculously appear on your desk, Emma. So it'll be a while yet, but in a good position, and includes waste acceptance criteria for the different repository locations or disposal locations where the BPSOU corridor wastes may be placed. So yeah, we're glad to have it with Montana Resources and working with them now in coordination. OM&M plan, I think the team's made good progress on this. So overall, it'll be kind of a cover plan that discusses the entirety of the Silver Creek Conservation Area and those project sites, both from a remedy and in land use perspective. And then there will be individual manuals for each project area. So there will be a manual for Diggings East, a manual for Northside Tailings, of those activities that are required, both from a remedy and an land use perspective to operate, maintain, and monitor those locations. So Andy and I and other team members have an OM&M call after this one's over. We'll continue to progress it. And the intent is to provide that draft plan again with most likely Diggings East. So
will it be an attachment for the CD free cell, or is it going to be a standalone submittal?
Well, it'll go. I guess if we need to attach it to it, we can, but really it's a program manual. I mean, we need a manual for every site. So we might as well get it out there. I think what to focus on is the plan structure and making sure that meets the requirements of the consent decree. It's just a mapping document, really, right? What does the documents include? And then the manuals is really where the work is. So
I think the freestyle says we need an eminent component with our submittals, so we'll have that with it. But
yeah,
it'll be a program-wide document with site-specific manuals.
And those site-specific manuals will come through with each design, or would they come, like, I guess, for instance, if we receive it with the Diggings East Northside Tailings manual, I'm assuming is.
Yeah, I would focus on
put together.
I would focus on the plan, right? And then the structure of the manual.
Okay.
To begin with. I think it only has to be a preliminary submittal with the 95% or whatever. So it's really structure based and making sure we're all agreed on that.
Correct.
The general content of the overarching plan, which will be fairly well populated, but then the manuals will be content light.
Got it.
Structure based.
Yeah, I think your first submittal will be the high level overarching document with, hey, here's what manuals would include, but those won't be fully populated, obviously, till we get all the designs complete.
Yeah.
So
So if there's, let's say Diggins East progresses to 100% and construction before we have a manual ready for Northside tailings, is there gonna just be is the intent to just have a placeholder then to say? Got it, okay.
Exactly.
overarching document, and we could have Diggins East site-specific annual.
Yeah.
Okay,
Northside tailings will say forthcoming.
Okay.
Yeah.
got it.
The one thing that we need to discuss, I think is probably more urgent than even getting the manuals in place, is the operational and functional plans or the shakedown plans. So, you know, I'm gonna have to really work with the Grove Gulch team to get a shakedown plan, an O&F plan in place to allow us to operate the site for the 2-year O&F period before really we turn it over to the manual. So Patty knows it inside now. Work with him and the Stantec team to O&F plan, effectively shakedown plan.
Josh, is that O&F plan the standalone submittal, or is it just?
I'd have to look back. I think it's kind of, I think it might be I know we need the O&M submittal, but there's this O&F period, which effectively will just implement the O&M manual to see if it works. But I think we're gonna need language that this is a shakedown period.
Yeah.
And we expect some challenges and we're gonna have to tweak it. And maybe this is the course of action that we see if, you know, I don't know, I'm just using an example. Maybe the turbidity leaving the basin's a little higher than expected. Okay, well, let's change the elevation or the orifice diameter at the outlet structure, something like that.
I think it's the same monitoring and maintenance procedures in the field. It's just what does the interpretation and stuff mean, and how do we act upon it? So, yeah, we need to think about that. It'd be nice if it was just an appendix or just something, some part of the site-wide M&M.
Yeah.
So it was in place for all of them, but.
We do need to know that, these manuals, they're not going to be really finalized until we get through that commissioning and shakedown.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's always been the intent too, is that that's why there is that period, is to figure out how is it functioning and is this manual sufficient to capture everything that we're trying to capture with that monitoring and maintenance.
The overarching guide, just like the program specs or the program sequence, it'll be one set of policies, procedures, operational stuff, and that govern all the sites. And then it'll just be a site specific.
Yeah.
Facts. So Diggins East versus
It's gonna be a big plan. Multi-volume, they're always fun.
Bookcase.
Yeah. Like the encyclopedia salesman showing up at your door. Yeah. Greener cleanups. This one's in my court. The team's done a great job. I just need to follow through. And of course I need to have it done prior to submittal of Diggins East. I'll try to find time to get back to it, Emily. I promise. Looking good though. It's looking good. Okay, any question on program plans in general? Did we miss any? I don't think we missed any. I think that's the universal program plans. Moving on to repository, I spoke to the materials management plan. It covers all the sites, so it's up in the program plans, but it's really specific and meant to support the repository process. Eventually we are discussing that with Montana Resources, having a kind of a first impressions talk later in the week with MR, and we'll begin to make sure meets MR's needs as a operating mine facility, and also from the perspective of the BPSOU remedy. Other than that, it's really the only where it's applicable for the most part is use of the pit. In the Shields Avenue location, it's on Montana Resources property. But I imagine if we were to utilize Shields Avenue, we'd be working with Montana Resources to maybe carve that out of their operating permit and perhaps take ownership of that little parcel. But we haven't quite gotten that far. And for the rest of it, it really applies to the Butte Mine Waste Repository and potential use of the Kelly Mine area of what materials kind of go where. So I look forward to getting through it with Montana Resources and getting that over to the agencies for review. Before, after, or with the next bullet, the repository siting study technical evaluation and recommendations report. Looks like we've been signed up for a meeting the week of December 5th. I don't know if it's the week of December 5th or on December 5th by our comms team. So I guess that's what we're aiming for, Emma. So that gives us, 6-7 weeks to kind of get our feet under us for that. And I think we're in a really good position with the document, the report. Pioneer aspect and other team members have been working that report, sit in a good position. It includes, kind of our detailed evaluations that are required by the guidance document, which includes geotechnical. You will be seeing a pre-design investigation work plan coming up for geochemical evaluation. I think I'm missing on one. Then we had Karen's data gap QAP that was informing a lot of the information that was going into that plan. So there's been quite a bit of technical evaluation. And of course, there's, I guess, what we're calling conceptual development plans for each of the potential repository locations. Like, what might this look like? How does it function? And of course, like an ARARS checklist. Do you meet ARARS? What's setting of this repository? So looking forward to seeing that all come together. And we do need to have that committee meeting on December 5th to go through those last criteria that we identified and think are appropriate. And we try to keep simple, like, yes, no's. Does it meet ARARS? Yes, no. Is it on Atlantic, Richfield, or Butte or Butte property? Yes, no, kind of stuff to keep it. Final screening criteria to finish out that. Is it step 5 or step 6? Can't remember. Step 5, step 6, all you. Yeah. Okay.
So the intent of that meeting in December would be prior to finalizing that report.
Correct. To re-engage the committee, those that are still want to participate, get their input on those criteria, get their input on path forward, and the settling defendants, Atlantic, Richfield, Butte or Butte would take that input back, finalize the report, and then find it somehow with the materials management plan and try to put a pin in it. Kind of related investigation activities. Jacobs is still working on the geotechnical evaluation report and the data we collected up there. What else do we have for investigation? So that field work's all done, just working on the report. Did we finish up the data gap investigation?
RFC to it. Yeah, finished that work. So
awesome. So we're working on data processing and waiting for analytics. Okay. So waiting on more data. I think we're in a pretty good position with that. And then, like I mentioned, we'll be getting that geochemical PDI WP over to the agencies and then kind of perform that analysis and following that with the PDI ER. And looking for a meeting again on or the week of December 5th. Any questions on program plans or repository activities? Any additions or questions? Okay, moving down. I was sleeping. Jim, I think I saw you joined. Any updates on restoration activities around Butte?
Yep, I'm here, Josh, Jim Ford, NRD. No real updates. We are not going to go to construction this winter on the dual projects, one of which is on the Butte Country Club and the other is just upstream of it on the sewer line. We sort of had a hiccup with some funding issues, so that's going to be delayed until probably the following winter, 2025. So that's really the only new news.
Thanks, Jim. Community engagement. I think I mentioned our repository meeting coming up first week of December. And if you want to cover any upcoming community engagement activities or other activities.
There's other community engagement activities that EPA is having that are not related to RDRA with the corridor project. So I can just speak to that here quickly. So today we've got office hours from noon to 2 at CTEC's office. And then next Tuesday, and this is all related to, sorry, I should have started with that. This is all related to EPA's release of the proposed plan for residential lead cleanup level. And next Tuesday, we have an open house from 6 to 7:30 at Montana Tech's Copper Lounge at the Student Union Building. And then November 18th, we'll have a formal public meeting where we'll have a stenographer present and they can take verbal public comments at that time on the proposed plan. And then on December 5th, we will have another office hours in the middle of the day. So from noon to 2 again at CTEC's office. And those are really opportunities for those who are interested in commenting on or have questions on that proposed plan. This is all within the public comment period, which closes December 16th. So we encourage people to come out and talk with us during those times. But no other community engagement activities related to corridor projects at this time.
Thanks, Emma.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything? Butte Silverbow community engagement activities? I don't know, or corridor related work, RDRA? Okay.
This is Abby Pelton with Butte Silverbow. I think you're covered.
Thanks, Abby. Okay, let's move into roundtable. I'll go first because I don't have anything to add in addition to what we just spoke of for the last bit. Again, focus, trying to button up to the extent practical we can Grove Gulch before we get smacked with non-conducive construction weather. And again, put some additional close to finishing touches at Lexington Wetlands. We'll have to come in and clean things up, if you will, next year at Lexington Wetlands before we have maybe a formal opening. There's a few trees that we need to replace that didn't quite meet our expectations, and some of our larger plantings, we ran out of stock at the nursery, so a few more tree plantings this year over there, and quite a bit of work at Grove Gulch again next year. And then MMP, materials management plan, and repository siting study. Always a focus of ours. And Tim, I know he's always focused on design.
Yeah,
Design teams are moving.
just slogging through designs, trying to get through things and get it submitted to PA and DQ.
Okay. Thanks, Tim. Let's move over to Butte Silverbow. Any Abby or Eric?
This is Brandon with Butte Silverbow. I don't have anything to add. I think with everything you've covered, Josh. I see JP might be on the line. I don't know if he has anything to add for Butte Silverbow.
Thanks, Brandon.
Sorry about that. This is JP. I do not have anything to add. I just am listening and just keeping updated on all things going on here. So nothing to add on my part.
Thanks, JP. Let's go to DEQ. Daryl, Logan.
Yeah, this is Daryl Reed at DEQ. Nothing new to report. There's a lot of things planned, with the repository and the materials management, and we're going to keep engaged on all these issues.
Thanks, Daryl. And Emma.
I think all I would add is we're talking about a lot of these moving parts, and I think we're having good conversations here too about elements that need to happen in order for other things to happen. And I think just continuing those conversations to make sure that the agencies have a good understanding of what needs to be reviewed or prioritized in order to have certain things move. As we're talking about repository siting, we've talked a lot about how that is pretty crucial to implementation of all these projects. So I think just keeping because there are so many moving parts, keeping all of that in mind of what elements need to be implemented first in order for consequential steps to be taken for the other projects. So I think there's a lot of really great work. There's a lot of I think out at Grove Gulch with those geotech shifts, it seems like there's been a lot of good collaboration and teamwork to figure out how that can work still in this season. So you'll just say thanks to the crews who've been working on that, and thanks for us who's been working on all of the other project work.
Thanks, Emma. Okay. Yeah, I agree on the planning coordination. We are, Tim and I are really mapping out our 2025, activities, and there is a lot of predecessor work that needs to be done, whether that be utility relocations or stockpile materials development, things like that. So we're gonna have another busy year in 2025. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time. Hope you have a good remainder of your week.
I got a quick question for you, Josh.
Yep.
So I got an email today from Jacobs IT Communication about multi-factor authentication. If I want to keep getting stuff from SharePoint, is this legit?
I have no idea, Ian. You click on it and let us know.
Yes, I think it is, guys. It's just something with, I guess, everything going on with the internet that it's an additional layer of security to ensure we maintain the integrity.
Okay, so Jacobs does use the jacobs.global email.
Yeah, I think this is an IT thing just for a lot of our SharePoint sites.
Okay. And I wasn't sure, are we getting emails from Jacobs with documents attached to those? I guess I'm not really familiar with Jacobs. Usually they come from Wood and Kern or something else like that.
I think this is related to folks that have access to the SharePoint site.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll think about clicking on it. Thanks.
It'll be fine, Ian.
Famous last words. All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Great week. See ya.